I'm doing well.
How's the Venetian like that, Jim?
Oh, it's great. You know, the Venetian is just an incredible place, and they have been, you know, very, very great, making everything very homey and comfortable. And everything we needed, we have at our disposal, and it's been a great first week.
Chris, what are some of your advantages heading into this fight that could get you the victory come next month?
I think, you know, the fact that I'm young and hungry is a big aspect in this fight. You know, I don't know if Manny's had to deal with those kind of guys in recent years, and at this stage of his career, you know, having somebody who's going to bring it for 12 rounds and 3 minutes a round could be something difficult to deal with.
Manny's been fighting at 147 a lot longer than you have. You coming up from 140, but you're the much taller man. Are you the bigger fighter by any chance, in your belief?
I mean, I believe so. I thought so before the fight, you know, was even really, you know, nailed down. But then when I was actually around him and saw him, I realized that I am the bigger man. But size isn't going to be the difference in this fight.
Reach?
Reach is important, and important in all fights, and an important part of my style. But that's not going to be the difference either.
What will be the difference then?
My mental approach and the fact that I believe I'm going to win this fight. You know, I don't think a lot of Manny's opponents give themselves a real chance mentally and really believe that they're going to win. I do.
A lot of people say Pacquiao struggles with technical fighters, with boxing ability. You bring that to the table. Will that play a part in what you think will be a victory?
It could. I guess we'll have to see on November 22nd.
What is the difference between Pacquiao of 8, 9, and 10 when he was knocking everybody out compared to, you know, 12, 13, and 14 when he's...
You know, I think it's more of his opposition, not so much that he's pulled off the gas pedal, because he still brings it. You know, he still brings it in his last couple fights. But he's fighting better and bigger opposition. You know, Manny started at, what, 108, 112 pounds. You know, for him to be fighting guys who are legitimate welterweights and putting them away is a difficult thing to do.
But he beat the shit out of, you know, Oscar, Miguel Cotto, a Hall of Famer fighter. I mean, it wasn't even a close fight.
Right.
And now he doesn't seem to have that same zip against guys that, you know, Miguel Cotto was pretty good in 09.
Yeah, no, and Miguel Cotto's a great fighter and still is, still doing awesome. But I can't think about approaching this fight that Manny's anything less than the Manny of old. You know, in my mind, I'm dealing with that guy who fought Lelo the Wabwaba and was shot out of a cannon from round number 1. So that's the man we're preparing for, and that's what I have in my mind.
How much have you studied him? A lot of fighters say they don't study their opponents. Do you like to study, and have you seen a lot of his fights?
I'm a student of the game in every aspect. So I've been watching Manny for, you know, 10, 15 years now. So I've seen all of his fights since then. I wouldn't say that I really sat down and studied them like my coaches have, but you know, that's their job. My job's not really to sit there and mull over tape and watch hours and hours of tape. My coaches have already done that. But I have seen Manny, and I know his style, and I know you know him well, you know, from his fights, just from being a fan.
How are you going to feel when you look across the ring right before the bell rings and you see Manny Pacquiao there? A guy, you know, it's a legendary fighter, is going to go down the Hall of Fame. How are you going to feel knowing you've reached that level already?
That's not what I have in my mind at all. You know, it's not about reaching a level. For me, that's the man in front of me. That's the guy who's standing in front of what I need, and I need to dominate that man and destroy him.
Is there anything Marquez did in those fights that you can pick up on at all?
Marquez made Manny think, and Pacquiao is the king of start and stop, in and out, start and stop, start and stop, and Marquez was able to use broken rhythm to keep that rhythm off. And you know, he slowed down certain aspects of it. He's picked up certain facts of it, and you know, was able to you know, disrupt the rhythm of the fight. So I mean, that's a great strategy for anybody, but especially for Manny Pacquiao.
Chris, you're doing a great job handling being on Fox News, USA Today, all these major news outlets. Where does that come from?
I'm built for this stuff, man. You know, I don't get nervous about this kind of stuff. I enjoy public speaking. It's something that I've done as, you know, as a profession in the past as a nutritionist and speaking to groups, and as a coach and a personal trainer. Even, you know, in terms of like in my school, you know, speaking to my classrooms. I never had a problem with that kind of stuff. I actually enjoy it. So for me, all the attention is, you know, it's not a big deal. You know, compared to what we do in a ring, this stuff's easy.
Your head coach, Tim.
Tim
tell
Lane.
me your history with him and the connection you have with him.
Tim Lane is just a tremendous coach. I've known him for about 16 years now. He has been my professional coach, even into my kickboxing career, probably about 10, 11 years. He was a pro fighter himself, pro boxer, pro kickboxer, world champion kickboxer. And we have a connection that I don't think many other athletes have out there. These days. We Stitch Duran, a very famous cut man, was saying yesterday. He said it while we were sparring session. He said, "You guys are two bodies, but you have one mind right now." Because we think along the same lines, and we spend a lot of time in communication, coming up with strategy, and I trust him. So what he tells me to do, I do.
Chris, can I ask you about the business? Aram seemed to have picked you out for the fight as Manny's opponent, but it seemed like it took a lot longer for you to get a deal done with Joe and Artie.
Yeah.
And I read, it seemed like they were trying to put pressure on you in the New York papers, things like that. Did that at all sour you? Did you have a different relationship with those guys than you do now? Or I guess mainly with Joe, not with Artie.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had to approach it as a businessman myself. I couldn't just, as a fighter, the opportunity came and it was like, yes, this is it. But as my business side of my brain had to slow things down to make sure I got the most fair deal for myself. And in that case, I had to deal with, there's a lot of people involved. I didn't speak to Bob. I didn't negotiate with him.
Right.
I negotiated with my promoters. So, I had to, like I said, slow things down and not be rushed into making a decision that wasn't in my best interest financially.
As we speak, Pacquiao is preparing for his first professional basketball match.
Mhm. I don't really have much to say about that. A lot of people ask me about his basketball. If is that what he chooses to do, that's fine. As long as he doesn't get hurt, I don't really care.
Chris?
Do you guys know what the game plan is right now?
Yes.
Or-
Yes, we've been working on it. This is our second week sparring of real sparring, and things really came together this week in terms of the game plan. So from sparring session to sparring session, this week by our third day, the coaches were amazed that I was getting better as we were going because we've been working really hard. My body was definitely feeling it, but the strategy's showing. And everyone's starting to kind of see what's working and how this is going to work.
So you're visualizing and envisioning first round, second round, and all those things?
Yeah, no, my coach breaks it up, and he's very, very meticulous. Tim is very meticulous about what we're working on in every single session. Our job is not to go out there and beat up our sparring partners. Our job is to get out of each sparring session, specifics that we need to mark off.
What weight do you want to walk into the ring with?
Mid-50s, mid to high 50s. That's what I walk around at. So, I'm not. I can make weight next week, and I'll look exactly the same on fight night. So, I'm not worried about the weight at all. Actually, yesterday I woke up, I was underweight. I was losing weight faster than I wanted to. So we upped our breakfast a little bit.
Chris, can you win a decision on agent?
Yes, absolutely.
You don't have any misgivings about?
No, I mean, if I do what I'm supposed to do, and control the action, there's no way you can take it from me. And I've fought that way my entire life. I've lost a few rounds, until my last fight, So, I think if I go out there and do what I'm supposed to do, and do what I can do, then there won't be question about who won a round or who won the fight.
Chris, can you hurt Manny Pacquiao, and how so?
Absolutely. Where if you can hit a man, you can hurt him. If you can hurt him, you can stop him. I've had that mentality my entire career. I don't care who I'm fighting. A guy could be 8-12. That guy can knock you out.
Chris, Manny has a lot of hand speed. He's been considered one of the fastest guys in the sport for years now. Can you match his speed or even exceed it? Because you're considered pretty fast yourself.
Yeah, I think guys are underestimating my speed a little bit, but I don't necessarily have to beat his speed or match his speed because timing beats speed. And at the same time, the reach difference, Manny has to start from further away. So even if he is faster, he's got to start from further away to get to me, before I can hit him before he can hit me. So the speed differential and the range differential, it all plays in. There's a lot of factors involved with, any boxing match.
Chris, do you know Manny said there was going to be random style drug testing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been tested yet, or
Yes.
have you been? How's that process?
I was tested in New York. I did the VADA testing for the Ruslan Pronikov fight. I think at the highest level, everybody should be tested. It's it's good for the whole sport. It's good for sports in general. Our sport's not like other sports. This is lives are on the line more so than other sports. Not that they're not in other sports, but this this is a fight. So getting competitive advantage like that is dangerous.
Have you ever fought anybody you suspected was using?
Oh, many times, especially in kickboxing when the regulations were not enforced at all.
So how do you deal with that, like mentally, because hey, this guy's doing something that I'm not doing?
So what? I'll beat you anyway. I train with guys all the time, and they're in the gyms and they're on stuff. And guys ask me, "What do you want, man? You don't get tired." What do you mean what I'm on? I'm good nutrition and I'm sleeping right. What do you mean? Like, what are you doing? So I've been beating those guys and guys who are cheating, quote unquote, for years. So in terms of it happening on fight night, it happens. It's a shame, but I can't be thinking negatively about my performance based on what they're doing.
I've spoken to fighters on that issue, and they say they feel a lot of pressure, and sometimes that's why they go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
Have you ever felt pressure from outside sources to kind of go that route?
No, because I haven't had the need. I can understand exactly what you just said because I've seen it in other athletes at the high levels when there's a lot of money involved and guys just can't keep up or they think they need that extra push and it's helped a lot of athletes. A lot of guys really break into astronomical numbers and achievements. So I understand the pressure to do it, but like I said, with this sport for me, it's not even a question because it's dangerous. Lives are at stake.
Chris, I gotta ask you, you ask 10 people about your fight with Pacquiao, and you'll get 10 different answers.
Mhm.
Is it a 50-50 fight? Is he the favorite, or are you the favorite?
Yeah, I don't know. Other people's opinions are none of my business. Whatever people think is gonna happen is gonna happen. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's what myself and Pacquiao do on November 22nd, and that's what's important.
Chris, Manny hasn't knocked anybody out in quite some time.
Mhm.
Now, do you take that into consideration, that he hasn't knocked anybody out in a while? Does that affect in any way how you're going to train?
No. Myself and my team, we've got probably a different approach than most. We don't concern ourselves in too much with the opponent. I'm not following what Manny's doing. I'm not trying to understand what he's doing every day and see how his training's going. I just have to worry about myself and do what I do. And I don't even think about my past fights because I'm going to be a different person on November 22nd. And, Manny will be a whole different person. So what happens in the past is not what's going to be happening in the future. So.
Why do you guys train in Vegas, and what do you think about training in that city?
For one, my coach Tim Lane lives in Las Vegas. My other coach Keith Trimble is in New York, so he's my full-time New York guy. And then Tim is out here on the West Coast in Vegas. But for me, especially recently, it's a lot tougher in New York to train and not be bothered by a lot of press or the gym's a circus these days. I go for a run in my neighborhood and I got cars following me. It's different. It's a lot different now. So for me to get away from New York is a good thing, and it was a good thing even before the Ruslan fight because I worked a lot when I was in New York. So for me, it was I wasn't living like a professional there. When I'm here, I can live like a professional and get a lot of rest and make sure my body is recovering, and I can train that much harder.
Chris, you became an elite fighter overnight. I'm guessing that might have been a little strange at the beginning. Is that all worn off by now?
No, because I've considered myself an elite fighter for many years. I just don't think I was recognized as one. That's what happened overnight, was the recognition. The work that we've been doing, that quote-unquote overnight sensation takes 10 years. So,
I was referring to the recognition part.
Yes, yeah, I understand. But yeah, no, it's the recognition. It came, but everything's been so fast. I've just really been focused on everything in front of me. I really enjoyed everything building up to the Ruslan fight. It was cool to do those kind of media events and roundtable stuff. For me, because as a young guy, a young kid, I was watching these fights. I was watching Oscar De La Hoya do these things. And that's what you'd think about when you're a kid. You think about the stuff that you're gonna want to do one day if you were there.
Just jumping in quick too, if there's any Spanish media that wants to ask a question to Chris in Spanish, please feel free.
Chris, has it been a little bit overwhelming as far as maybe the way your life has changed since you have become, much more recognized than you were before?
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons that I brought on my man here, Kevin Rooney. He's been taking care of a lot of things for me. But also speaking to financial advisors, attorneys, accountants, making sure that everything in the business side has been taken care of. That's probably been the most overwhelming stuff. The money has changed dramatically, and taking care of my finances became a full-time job. So, and I didn't know how to do that. So right after the Ruslan fight, I pretty much went to school myself, talking to as many people as I could financially to get a handle on what the next steps are for the future, to make sure everything is lined up, so I don't have to worry about that. And it's helped tremendously. I can sleep well at night. So.
What do you want to do?
In terms of
with the money that's coming in.
I set up a 401k and a pension plan and payroll services. Got health insurance now, which I haven't had for a couple of years.
So you were fighting without any health insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm just making sure that stuff's all taken care of, and you know, it's tough. I think for young fighters and guys who are making it and are young champions, they don't know how to do that. You know, I didn't know how to do that. Paying taxes, we don't pay taxes.
Was money ever a motivation like that, or what was your motivation coming up with us?
When I was coming up, my plan or my goal, I wanted to win a world title and I wanted to pay off my school loans. I obviously undershot my goals in that case.
Sorry, do you think you don't get enough credit for your power?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that. I think all my sparring partners think that. I think my coaches think that too. You know, but I think it's being realized more and more. Guys who are actually at my fights and see the way that I punch, and the fact that a guy like Ruslan Provodnikov, who's pretty much bulletproof, didn't walk through my punches. So, you know, you gotta look beyond the numbers in this sport.
Do you think you fought your way out of trouble in the first round of that fight, that it helped you to get the fight? Because if you would have just outboxed him in a boring and won, 120, 108, and running away with it, they might have said the guy's boring, but you went down, you were in trouble, and you fought back and won. Do you think that helped you?
Yeah, I said if I won the fight the way that we had planned, I wouldn't have got this fight. I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles in the sport. But it is what it is, and Joe DeGuardia says, "Man, that eye, man, that was really good for you." I'm like, really? I didn't like that.
You talked earlier about you focus on yourself, not so much Manny heading into the fight. But you're also a student of the sport. From that, do you see anything in particular that you're going to be able to take advantage of next month?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, Manny's a rhythm fighter,
right.
And so am I. So it's going to be who's going to be able to take and control the rhythm and keep that rhythm. But at the same time, Manny's a master in there as well. So it's going to be an ebb and flow and push and pull when it comes to setting and offsetting.
Chris, the Ruslan fight was a tough fight for you. Do you expect the Manny fight to be even tougher than that, of what you went through in that fight with Ruslan?
In different ways. The Ruslan fight was tough in the adversity part, but it wasn't so much tough in terms of even physicality. It wasn't a very tough fight, or even really mentally. It wasn't like the only mental strain from that fight was the injury. But other than that, my fight with Emmanuel Taylor was mentally exhausting. It looked like an easy fight. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's an easy fight." But I was mentally tired after that fight.
Why?
Because he was such a dangerous guy, and he doesn't get a lot of credit for how dangerous he really is. He's the kind of guy you blink and you wake up in the locker room, because he's got that kind of punch. Ruslan beats you down and he catches you and he hits you, but I wasn't overly concerned about his power in that way. If he caught me, I'd be hurt, but I think I could drive. I was worried about the Taylor fight of getting clipped with a big shot, and because he was tricky that way.
Remind me, did you know at the Taylor fight if I win? I have. So remind me how that Provodnikov fight came. Was it a fluke that you just kind of happened to be there, or what was it?
Well, Taylor was in line for the Provodnikov fight, from what I understand. I don't know how true all that is, but apparently that Taylor was in line for Provodnikov's next fight for his title defense, and then I beat Taylor, so then I stepped in line for that.
What did you think of Taylor?
I've been in there with big guys up until that day. Taylor, the biggest guy was me. But again, just the way, like you were saying before, I'm not looking at Manny as this legend. He's the guy in front of me.
And you mentioned that Taylor fight was your most mentally draining fight because of what you said, the power and all that. Manny's opponents have said that every single one of his punches hurts, and it's a different thing. So are you expecting that this fight is going to be as mentally draining?
Absolutely. Yeah. This has got to be this fight is all about strategy, game plan, patience. Pacquiao's a dangerous guy. So I gotta be really on my P's and Q's. But the fact that I've been there before, I think is gonna help a lot, because the Taylor was like my first time. It was my first main event on TV. It was my first. A lot of firsts. This is a lot of firsts too, but I feel a lot more comfortable in my skill set now than I did then.
What things did you appreciate about that whirlwind tour, traveling, and finally coming face to face with Manny, stuff like that?
Well, I love to travel for one. I traveled quite a bit on my own. Through college and after, so that was I loved that experience. I'd never been to Asia before, so that was my first time, and it was great experience. The fans there are incredible. They're relatively new to boxing, but they're super enthusiastic. So that was very cool to meet all the people out there. And I had said in an interview earlier that seeing Pacquiao the first day was good because he's a real person now, you know. So for me, it was the being flesh and blood made it a lot more real and a lot more manageable.
Because we actually got to get him to his seat, so maybe 2 more questions.
Chris, Freddie Roach was in Provodnikov's corner when you fought him. Now you're gonna fight Manny Pacquiao. Freddie Roach will also be in his corner. Do you think Freddie has something up his sleeve or saw something in you that they can adjust, being as that they didn't, that Provodnikov wasn't able to walk away with the victory?
Maybe he does. Maybe he may think that way. He may not. I'm sure he's working diligently on the game plan. I'm sure he has a strategy already, and I'm sure he has a great one. He's a great coach. But it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm not fighting Freddie.
You referenced before the basketball, and you said he hope he doesn't get hurt, but I almost take it as arrogance on Manny's part that he's going to play in a professional basketball game before a fight where he's making millions of dollars. I mean, do you take it that way?
I don't know if it's arrogance or if it's silly or stupid, but I was during the presser. I actually got on a horse at one point, and as soon as I got up there, I'm like, "This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea," because I'm getting paid after the fight. So that's just, I don't know. So I don't know if that's the smartest thing to do. But
Last thing, I talked to your coach, and he told me that the first day that you walked into the kickboxing gym, that it was a rough day, and he was surprised that you came back. Why did you come back the next day?
I mean, that wasn't really like my first, but it was the first day I met my coach, Tim Lane, and we sparred, and he gave me the worst beating I've ever had in my life, to this day. I was 16, 17 years old, and he was a pro kickboxer, and he beat the hell out of me. But we sparred twice a week from then on. I kept coming back. I don't know. I'm a competitor. I've always been that way. So for me, to get beat up and then disappear is not even a thought in my mind.
Do you have to get back at him?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. We actually stopped sparring after a while because I was taking over.